My name is Margaret. I am 72 years old, and I am speaking to you from North Carolina in the United States. Before I begin my story, I would like to ask you kindly to subscribe, like, and click the notification button so you don't miss the upcoming chapters of my story. Also, tell me from which part of the country you are watching from. I love to know where my listeners are tuning in from. Now let me take you straight into the heart of my story. I was lying on a hospital bed struggling to breathe. My chest was heavy, my body weak, and the doctors knew my condition could turn at any moment. One of them hurriedly picked up the phone and said, "Call her daughter. Tell her it might be her last chance to see her mother alive." The nurse dialed the number, her voice desperate as she explained my situation. But the response that came from the other end cut me deeper than the pain in my chest. "We can't come," my daughter's husband said coldly. "My wife is having a party. She can't leave right now." The nurse tried again, pleading, "This is urgent. She may not make it through the night. This could be her last chance." But the reply was the same, sharp and heartless. "We said we can't. Don't call again." I could hear the whispers around me, the shocked looks on the faces of the doctors. Tears burned in my eyes, not from the sickness, but from the wound my own daughter had left inside my heart. I thought to myself, how can a mother be left alone at her final moment? Just because her child prefers a party? A month later, when my daughter and her husband finally walked into the hospital, smiling as though nothing had happened, they stopped dead in their tracks. My bed was empty, but I had not left quietly. On the small pillow lay a folded piece of paper, addressed to my daughter. She picked it up with trembling fingers, opened it, and as she read the note, her face drained of all color. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the paper. Her husband leaned over her shoulder to read too, and suddenly, silence fell over both of them. The words in that letter carried the weight of everything I had kept in my heart. That was the moment their world turned upside down. Now let me take you back to where it all began, before that hospital night, before the cold rejection that shattered me. I had lived a long life filled with sacrifices. Raising my only daughter, Emily, had been my greatest joy and also my greatest battle. I was a single mother after my husband passed away early, and I worked night shifts at a diner, cleaned houses during the day, and sometimes went to bed hungry just to make sure Emily had enough. I wanted her to grow up with opportunities one never had. Emily was a bright child, with soft blonde hair and eyes that could charm anyone. People used to say she would make me proud one day, and she did for a while. She got into college, married well, and moved into a big house. I thought all my sacrifices had finally paid off. But over the years, something changed. Success and comfort wrapped around her heart like a cold chain. She stopped visiting as often. Calls became rare. When I came by her house, sometimes she would treat me like a burden rather than the mother who raised her alone. The last time I had gone to her place before the hospital incident, I remember walking up her porch with a bag of apples I had picked from my garden. She opened the door surprised and quickly said, "Oh Mom, you should have called. We have guests tonight, and I don't want any awkwardness." I stood there holding the apples, unsure if I should laugh or cry. Her words pierced me deeper than she knew. I left quietly that night, telling myself she was just busy, just stressed. But deep inside I knew the truth. My daughter no longer wanted me in her life. Still I hoped. A mother's love never stops hoping. But the hospital night tore away the last of that hope. As the days passed after that night, the doctors did all they could to keep me alive. Sometimes I wanted to give up to let my tired body rest. Other times I thought of Emily as a little girl again, running barefoot in the yard calling me Mommy with a laugh. Those memories kept me breathing. Until one evening, when the nurse who had called Emily sat by my bed and held my hand. She whispered, "I am sorry your daughter did not come, but you are not alone here. We care for you." Her kindness gave me strength, but it also carved a sharp truth into my heart. Sometimes strangers can show more love than family. The weeks that followed were quiet. I thought often about my life, my choices, and what I would leave behind. That is when I decided to write the note that turned Emily's face pale when she finally saw my empty bed. But what exactly did I write in that letter? And why did it leave her trembling as though the ground had disappeared beneath her? That, my dear listeners, is where the storm truly begins. The note my daughter found on my empty bed was not just a piece of paper. It was the voice of a mother who had been silenced too long. The tears of a heart that had carried more weight than anyone knew. But before I tell you what that letter said, let me take you further back, so you can understand why those words cut deeper than a knife. I grew up in a small town in North Carolina, in a little wooden house surrounded by pine trees. My parents weren't wealthy, but they had hearts of gold. My mother always told me, "Margaret, when you give love, you must give it freely, without expecting it back. But remember, not everyone will value it." At the time, I thought she was only warning me about friends. I never imagined her words would one day describe my own daughter. When Emily was born, she was my entire world. I remember holding her tiny body close to me, promising her that I would give her the life I never had. And I did. Every scraped knee, every school project, every tear. I was there. Even when I was tired, even when I was broke, even when my body begged me to rest, I kept pushing because I wanted her to feel loved and secure. There were nights I worked double shifts at the diner, only to come home at 3 a.m. and sew little dresses for her. When other children came to school in fine clothes, I didn't want Emily to feel less. She never knew how many times I skipped meals so she could have more. She never knew how I sold my wedding ring just to pay for her textbooks. When she graduated high school and got accepted into college, I cried tears of joy. I thought, finally, all my sacrifices are worth it. My baby will have the future I dreamed of for her. But slowly, as she moved up in life, something shifted. Emily became distant. She stopped introducing me as her mother when she was with certain people. Instead, she would just say, "This is Margaret." Imagine how that felt, to be reduced from mom to just a name. One day, I visited her in the city. I had saved a little money to surprise her with a gift. A quilt I had stitched with my own hands, each square telling a part of her childhood. She looked at it and forced a smile, then said, "Oh, Mom, this is nice, but my house is very modern. I don't think this will fit with the design." I stood there, clutching the quilt, and something inside me cracked. She didn't even notice. She just folded it and shoved it into a drawer. I told myself, maybe she's just trying to fit into her husband's world. Her husband, Richard, was always polite but distant. He came from a wealthy family and carried himself with an air of superiority. Sometimes I wondered if he looked down on me for being just a diner worker. But I never cared what he thought, until I realized his coldness was rubbing off on Emily. Fast forward to the hospital night. My body weak, my breathing shallow, the machines beeping around me. When the nurse told me my daughter wasn't coming, something inside me shattered completely. I had faced hunger, loneliness, even widowhood. But nothing compared to the pain of knowing my only child chose a party over me. I prayed that night. I prayed for strength to forgive her. But forgiveness didn't come easy. Instead, memories flooded back. Of me staying awake through storms to comfort her. Of me defending her when kids bullied her. Of me spending my last penny on her dreams. And now? She couldn't even spend her last chance with me. The hospital staff became my family during those weeks. Nurse Linda, a kind woman with graying hair, would sit by me and read the Bible when I couldn't sleep. Dr. Howard would pat my hand and say, "You're stronger than you think, Margaret." Even the janitor, a young man named Mike, would bring me flowers he found outside. Strangers gave me the love my own daughter withheld. But the truth was, I didn't have much time left. And that is when I decided to write the note. The note was not long, but every word carried weight. I wanted Emily to understand the pain she caused me, the depth of my love, and the consequences of her neglect. I wanted her to know that love is not eternal if it is trampled upon. When I placed that note on my pillow, I felt a strange peace. I didn't know whether I would live or die, but I knew the truth was finally written. Now imagine this. Emily walks into the hospital room a month later, expecting to see me lying weak and waiting for her. Instead, she finds my bed empty. No flowers, no blankets, no sign of me, just that folded letter. She picks it up, curious at first. But as she reads, her face turns pale. Her hands begin to tremble. Richard leans over, and when his eyes scan the words, his jaw tightens. Both of them stand frozen, unable to move, as though the walls around them are closing in. What did that letter say? Why did it leave them looking as though the ground had vanished beneath their feet? That, dear listeners, is the question that will unfold in the next chapter. But before we get there, let me leave you with this lesson. Never wait until it's too late to show love. A party, a job, or pride is never worth more than the people who gave you life. Because one day, you may return to their bed and find only silence waiting for you. And that silence speaks louder than anything. But silence was not the only thing Emily found that day. There was more, something far more shocking, hidden beneath that letter. And that is where the storm begins. Emily stood frozen in the hospital room, staring at the folded piece of paper she had just read. Her lips trembled, and her husband Richard reached out to steady her arm, though his own hands were shaking. The note was short, but it was like a dagger. Emily, when I called for you in my weakest hour, you chose laughter over love. You chose strangers over your own mother. You may not find me here now, but know this. Life has a way of returning every choice we make. The emptiness you feel standing at this bed is the same emptiness you left in my heart. Remember, the party is over when the music stops. And one day, you will hear silence too. The words blurred in Emily's eyes as tears spilled down her cheeks. Her chest tightened. For the first time, she felt the weight of her actions pressing down on her like a heavy stone. Richard, usually so proud and unbothered, stood pale and stiff. What does she mean? You may not find me here now, he muttered. Did she die? Emily shook her head frantically. No, they would have told us if she died. Maybe she's in another ward, or maybe, her voice broke into sobs. They rushed out of the room, looking for a doctor, a nurse, anyone who could give answers. When they found Dr. Howard, he looked at them with deep disappointment. You are her family, he said slowly. Yet you only come now after weeks? You had your chance to be by her side, and you ignored it. Margaret. She's no longer here. Emily gasped. She's gone. Dr. Howard nodded. She asked to be discharged. We couldn't stop her. She was weak, but she insisted. She left, with nothing but that letter. Emily's legs buckled, and she nearly collapsed. Richard caught her, his jaw tight with anger and guilt. Where did she go? Emily cried. Where is she now? The doctor shrugged helplessly. We don't know. She didn't say. She only told us that her time in this hospital was over, and that her daughter would understand the meaning when the moment came. Emily's sobs echoed down the hallway. Patients, nurses, even strangers watched her break down. Some shook their heads, whispering, that poor woman gave her everything to her daughter, and look how the daughter repaid her. Others said, too late, it's too late. Richard, ever the man of pride, clenched his fists. We'll find her. We'll hire people if we must. But even as he said the words, the weight of that letter hung over them. For the first time in her life, Emily felt powerless. I must take you back a little here, because what happened after I left the hospital was not a simple disappearance. No, my dear listeners, it was the beginning of something much bigger. Something that would turn Emily's world inside out. When I left that hospital, I didn't go home. I didn't even tell the doctors where I was going. I had spent my whole life giving, and in the moment my daughter chose a party over me, I realized something. I was invisible to her. So I made a choice of my own. I took what little savings I had, packed a small bag, and disappeared quietly into a place where no one would think to look for me. I wanted Emily to feel what I had felt that night. Emptiness, fear, regret. Only then would she understand what a mother's love truly means. But don't mistake me. I did not leave out of hatred. I left out of love. A hard love. The kind that teaches lessons through pain because words alone had failed. Meanwhile, Emily's world began to unravel. At first, she tried to pretend everything was fine. She went back to her parties, her dinners, her social events. But something had changed. Every time music played, every time laughter echoed, she remembered the line in my letter. The party is over when the music stops. She would freeze in the middle of conversations, her smile fading, haunted by the thought that one day, her music would stop too, and there would be no one by her side. Her friends began to notice. Emily, you seem distracted lately. Are you all right? You don't look well. She waved them off, but deep down her guilt was eating her alive. Nights were the worst. She would lie awake next to Richard, staring at the ceiling, hearing my voice in her head. One night she whispered, "What if something happens to her out there, Richard? What if she dies alone?" Richard sighed. "We'll find her. Stop torturing yourself." But he too was restless. Weeks passed and then something strange happened. One morning Emily received an envelope in the mail. No return address, no name. Just her own written across the front in shaky handwriting. She opened it with trembling hands. Inside was a single photo, an old picture of her as a child sitting on my lap, both of us smiling at the camera. On the back of the photo, written in the same shaky handwriting, were 6 words. "Do you still remember this, love?" Emily dropped the photo as though it burned her fingers. Her heart pounded. "Richard!" she screamed. He came running, saw the photo and frowned deeply. "So, she's alive. And she's reaching out." Emily sobbed. "But why like this? Why not just call me? Why torture me?" Richard's face hardened. "Because you deserve it." Emily looked at him, shocked. "What did you just say?" He met her eyes coldly. "You left her in that hospital. You abandoned your own mother. If I were her, I'd do worse." The truth in his words struck Emily like lightning. For the first time she realized her husband, her prideful, distant husband, was not defending her. He was siding with me. She collapsed into a chair, clutching the photo to her chest, sobbing uncontrollably. And that was only the beginning, because more letters were coming. And each one carried not just words but consequences. The second letter would not only test Emily's heart, it would shake her marriage to its very core. And when it arrived, the truth it revealed was far darker than she was prepared for. The first letter had broken Emily's pride. The photo of her sitting on my lap as a little girl haunted her every waking moment. She carried it in her purse, she placed it by her bed. She even stared at it before falling asleep, whispering, "I do remember, Mom. I do. But guilt alone does not erase the past." 2 weeks later, another envelope appeared in her mailbox. No name, no return address, just her name written in the same shaky handwriting. She knew instantly it was from me. Her hands trembled as she tore it open. Richard, standing nearby, crossed his arms and watched with a grim face. Inside was not a photo this time. It was a single page, written with careful, pained words. "Emily, you think you have time. You think you can choose when to love and when to ignore. But time does not bend for anyone. While you were laughing at your party, I was gasping for breath. While you were raising your glass, I was clutching my chest. And yet I remembered you. I thought of the day I carried you on my shoulders to see the fireworks. The day I held your hand as you cried after your first heartbreak. Even in my weakest hour, you were in my heart. But where was I in yours? This is not just about me, Emily. This is about the person you are becoming. Look closely at your life, at your marriage, at the people around you. Is there truth? Or only emptiness? Be careful. Not every silence is peace. Some silences hide secrets." Emily's eyes widened. "What does she mean?" she whispered. "What secrets?" Richard frowned and snatched the letter from her hands. He read it once, then again, his jaw tightening. "She's just trying to guilt-trip you," he muttered. "Ignore it." But Emily shook her head violently. "No, this feels different. This isn't just about me ignoring her. She's hinting at something. Something in my life. Richard, what does she know that I don't?" Richard avoided her gaze. "You're letting her play with your head." But Emily's instincts stirred. Mothers know things. Mothers see things that children overlook. And if I had written about secrets, it meant I had seen something. Something Emily was blind to. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept staring at Richard, lying beside her. His face was calm, but his fists were clenched even in sleep. For the first time, she wondered, could he be hiding something from me? The following morning, Emily decided to go back to her childhood home. My old wooden house, the place I had lived before the hospital. She thought maybe she would find clues there, something that would explain the meaning behind the letter. The house was dusty, silent, and filled with memories. Emily walked from room to room, her footsteps echoing. She ran her hands over the old rocking chair where I used to sit, over the shelves filled with books I had once read to her. Then, in the corner of my bedroom, she noticed something strange. The drawer of my nightstand was slightly open. Inside, she found an old journal. Her hands shook as she opened it. The journal was mine. The first pages were filled with memories of her childhood. Her first steps, her first words, the little songs I used to sing to her. Emily smiled through her tears. But then, as she flipped further, her heart froze. There were pages about Richard. I don't trust him. The way he looks at Emily sometimes worries me. He carries a charm on the outside, but his eyes hide something. I saw him once speaking harshly to her when he thought I wasn't watching. I fear my daughter is blind to his true nature. I hope I'm wrong, but something in my heart tells me secrets are buried in that man's world. Emily's chest tightened. She read more. He thinks I don't notice, but I see the way he hides phone calls. I see the way he grows cold when Emily isn't looking. One day, the truth will come out. And when it does, Emily will remember these words. Emily dropped the journal, her breathing sharp and fast. No, this can't be true. Richard loves me. He's my husband. He wouldn't. But the words in that journal echoed like thunder in her ears. Secrets are buried in that man's world. That evening, Emily confronted Richard. Richard, she said, her voice trembling. Is there something you haven't told me? About us? About anything? Richard stiffened. What are you talking about? She threw the journal at him. She wrote about you. My mother. She didn't trust you. She saw things I didn't see. What are you hiding, Richard? His face darkened. For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then he leaned forward, his voice low and sharp. Your mother has always been a bitter woman. She judged me from the start. She thought I wasn't good enough for you. She wanted to poison your mind against me. And now she's using these letters to drive a wedge between us. Emily shook her head, tears streaming. No, this feels real. I feel it, Richard. She knew something. Tell me the truth. Richard's eyes narrowed. Be careful, Emily. Don't let an old woman's bitterness ruin our marriage. He walked out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Emily collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. For the first time in her life, she felt completely lost. Torn between the man she had married and the mother who had raised her. But deep down she knew one thing. Mothers don't lie in their journals. The next day, another envelope arrived. This one was thicker. Inside was not just a letter, but a document. An official-looking paper with Richard's name on it. Emily's eyes scanned the page, her mouth dropping open. Her knees went weak, and she fell against the wall. Because what she held in her hands was proof of a secret so dark it could destroy her marriage forever. And it had come from me. Emily's hand shook as she held the paper. Her eyes darted over the printed words again and again, hoping she had misread, praying it was a mistake. But it wasn't. The document was a court record, dated years before she even met Richard. His name was there, bold and undeniable. Richard Allen Stevens. The charges beside his name made Emily's blood run cold. Fraud. Theft. Deception. Emily's breath caught in her throat. No, this can't be real. She sank to the floor, clutching the paper against her chest. Her mother, I had been right. The man she had trusted, the man she had defended against whispers, the man she had married, was not who he claimed to be. She scrambled for her phone, dialing Richard's number. When he answered, his voice was sharp, impatient. What is it, Emily? Her voice shook. Richard, I found something. A document. Says you were arrested years ago for fraud. You lied to me. You never told me. There was a long silence on the line. Then Richard spoke, his voice low and dangerous. Where did you get that? Emily's stomach twisted. Don't you dare turn this on me. Is it true? Another pause. Then Richard said flatly, yes. It's true. But it was a long time ago. I changed. It doesn't matter anymore. Emily's tears spilled. Doesn't matter? You built our entire life on a lie. My mother tried to warn me, and I ignored her. She knew Richard. She saw what I couldn't. Richard's tone hardened. Listen to me, Emily. Whatever your mother is doing, she's trying to destroy us. Don't let her win. Don't you see? She hates me, and now she's making you doubt me. Emily's heart pounded. She didn't make me doubt you. You did that yourself. There was a slam on the other end of the line. Richard had hung up. Emily spent the night pacing the living room, clutching the paper torn apart inside. Her mother's words came back to her. Not every silence is peace. Some silences hide secrets. Now she understood. The next morning, she went back to the hospital to see if anyone had heard from me. Nurse Linda recognized her instantly. "You're Margaret's daughter, aren't you?" she asked, her eyes narrowing. "Yes," Emily whispered. "Do you know where my mother went? Please, I have to find her." The nurse's expression softened. "I don't know exactly, but before she left, she told me something strange. She said, when my daughter finally learns the truth about her husband, she will come looking for me. Tell her to follow her childhood memories." Emily frowned. "Childhood memories?" The nurse nodded. "That's all she said. I thought it was odd, but maybe it means something to you." Emily's mind raced. Childhood memories, could it mean the park where we used to go? Or the church where I took her every Sunday? Or maybe, then it struck her. The lake. When Emily was little, I used to take her to a quiet lake on the edge of town. We would sit under a big oak tree, skipping stones and talking about her dreams. I had always called it our secret place. Emily gasped. The lake. She must be there. Without wasting a moment, she drove straight to the old lake. Her heart raced with every turn of the road. She prayed she would find me sitting under that oak tree, waiting for her. When she finally arrived, she jumped out of the car and ran to the water's edge. The lake shimmered under the sunlight, just as it had when she was a child. Her eyes scanned the shore desperately. "Mom," she cried. "Mom, are you here?" Silence. Only the sound of birds and the rustle of leaves. She searched the area, her heart sinking with every step. Finally, near the oak tree, she saw something lying on the grass. A folded piece of paper. Her breath caught. She picked it up and unfolded it with trembling hands. It was another note, written in my shaky handwriting. "You are close, Emily. But finding me will not be so easy. If you truly want to see me again, you must make a choice. Look at the man you married. Look at the life you built. Decide whether you will cling to lies, or whether you will face the truth. Only then will you find me." Tears blurred her vision. She clutched the note to her chest, whispering, "I'm sorry, Mom. I'm so sorry." But just as she turned to leave, she froze. Because across the lake, standing in the shadows, she saw a figure. Tall. Still. Watching her. And when the figure stepped into the light, her breath stopped. It wasn't me. It was Richard. Emily's heart pounded like a drum in her chest as Richard stepped out of the shadows. His tall frame seemed darker than usual, his eyes sharp, his mouth twisted into something between a smirk and a sneer. "Richard, what are you doing here?" Emily's voice trembled. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he took slow steps toward her, his shoes crunching against the gravel. "Funny thing," he finally said, his tone low and deliberate. "I asked myself the same question about you." Emily's grip tightened on the letter in her hand. "You've been following me, haven't you?" Richard tilted his head, his lips curling into a cold smile. "Of course. Did you really think I wouldn't notice you running off in the middle of the night? Digging around in your mother's past? Snooping in my business?" Emily took a step back, her body trembling. "You lied to me, Richard. You lied about everything, your past, your crimes. My mother knew the truth about you. She tried to warn me, and I didn't listen. But now I see it." Richard's eyes darkened. He closed the distance between them in a few quick strides until he was inches from her face. "And what exactly do you see, Emily? That your perfect husband isn't perfect? That the life you bragged about to your friends was built on lies? You can't handle the truth, Emily. You never could." Emily's voice cracked. "Why didn't you tell me? Why hide everything?" He let out a bitter laugh. "Because you wouldn't have married me if you knew. And let's be honest, you liked the life I gave you. The house, the parties, the money. Don't stand here pretending you're innocent in all this." His words cut deep, but Emily shook her head violently. "I may have been blind, but I wasn't a liar. I never built my life on deceit. You did. And now, my mother is gone because of you. She knew who you were before I did, and you hated her for it." Richard's smile disappeared. His jaw tightened. "Careful, Emily. You're walking a dangerous line. Emily clutched the letter tighter. You can't scare me anymore. I'm going to find my mother, with or without you. For the first time, Richard's calm mask cracked. His eyes narrowed, and his voice dropped to a chilling whisper. And what if I told you you'll never find her? Emily's blood ran cold. What do you mean? Richard stepped closer, lowering his voice even further. Your mother isn't just hiding. She's running. And not just from you. She's running from something far bigger. Something you don't understand. Emily's knees weakened. Stop playing games with me. Tell me where she is. Richard's lips curved again into that unsettling smirk. If you really want to find her, Emily, you'll have to come through me first. Before she could react, Richard snatched the letter from her hands and tore it in half. The sound of ripping paper echoed in the still air. No. Emily cried, reaching for the pieces, but Richard shoved her back roughly. She stumbled against the oak tree, tears burning her eyes. Richard leaned down, his face inches from hers, his voice cold as ice. Your mother thinks she's clever, but she doesn't realize she's playing with fire. And if you're not careful, Emily, that fire will burn you too. Emily's hands shook with fear and rage. I don't believe you. I'll find her no matter what you say. I won't stop until I do. Richard straightened, his eyes blazing. Then you'd better be ready to pay the price. He turned and walked away, his shadow disappearing into the trees, leaving Emily trembling, broken, and more determined than ever. She sank to the ground, sobbing. Her world was crumbling, her marriage poisoned by lies, her mother vanished into silence, and a storm of secrets swirling around her. But as she wiped her tears, her eyes caught something glinting beneath the oak tree where she had found the letter. Slowly, she reached down and pulled it from the dirt. It was another envelope. Her breath caught. With shaking hands, she opened it. Inside was a single sentence written in my familiar shaky handwriting. Emily, trust no one, not even the man in your own house. Emily's eyes widened, her hands trembling so violently she almost dropped the letter. Because in that moment, she realized something terrifying. Her mother's warning wasn't just about Richard. It could mean someone else too. Someone closer than she ever imagined. And then behind her, a twig snapped. Emily froze. Slowly, she turned her head. And what she saw made her scream. The scream tore from Emily's throat before she could stop it. Her entire body trembled as she spun around. Standing only a few feet away was a woman, thin, pale, her clothes worn as if she'd been living in the shadows. Her hair hung in loose, tangled strands, and her face was half hidden beneath the moonlight. Emily's heart skipped. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Mom." The woman stepped forward slowly, her eyes wide with fear, as if she too had been caught doing something forbidden. "Yes, Emily," she rasped, her voice fragile but unmistakable. "It's me." Emily's legs nearly gave out. For weeks she had prayed for this moment, searched for answers, followed crumbs of clues. And now here her mother was standing before her alive. Emily lunged forward, wrapping her arms around her, sobbing uncontrollably. "I thought you were gone. I thought I'd lost you forever." Her mother clutched her tightly, trembling just as hard. "I wanted to come back, Emily. I wanted to. But I couldn't. Not when he was watching me." Emily pulled back, her eyes wide. "You mean Richard, don't you?" Her mother's lips trembled. "Richard and others. He isn't the only one. There are people, Emily. Dangerous people. They know secrets. Secrets that could destroy him. And destroy you too." Emily shook her head in disbelief. "I don't care about secrets. I don't care about Richard. All I care about is you. I need you to come home." Her mother's face twisted in sorrow. "I can't. Not yet. If I go back, they'll find me. And if they find me, they'll hurt you." Emily's tears streamed freely. "Then at least tell me the truth. Please. Why did you disappear? Why didn't you call? Do you know what it did to me when I thought you abandoned me?" Her mother's shoulders shook. She cupped Emily's face with trembling hands. "I never abandoned you. I left because I had no choice. I found something, Emily. Something about Richard. Something he's been hiding for years. If the wrong people knew I told you, they'd kill us both." Emily's stomach turned. "What did you find?" Before her mother could answer, There was a sharp crack in the woods. Both women froze. Emily's breath caught in her throat as her mother's eyes filled with terror. "He found us," her mother whispered, clutching Emily's arm. "Who?" Emily demanded. Before she could get a reply, a beam of light from a flashlight cut through the trees. Heavy footsteps echoed across the forest floor. Emily's mother gripped her hand tightly. "Run. Now." "No." Emily cried. "I just found you. I'm not leaving you again." Her mother's voice was urgent, almost desperate. "Emily, if you love me, you'll run. They're here for me, not you. You have to live." Tears blinded Emily's vision. She shook her head violently. "I won't leave you. Not this time." But then through the trees Emily saw him. Richard. His face was twisted with rage, his flashlight beam cutting across their bodies like a spotlight on prey. "Emily," he barked, his voice booming through the woods. "Step away from her. Now." Emily's blood turned cold. Her mother's nails dug into her skin, urging her to flee, but her heart screamed at her to stay. Richard advanced slowly, each step deliberate. "You have no idea what you're dealing with, Emily. That woman is dangerous. She'll ruin everything we've built. Come to me, and I'll make sure you're safe." Emily's mind raced. Her mother squeezed her hand harder, whispering, "Don't trust him. Not for a second." Emily's breath hitched. Her husband on one side, her mother on the other. Two voices pulling her in opposite directions. And then Richard reached into his coat and pulled out a gun. Emily gasped, her body paralyzed. Her mother shoved her behind the tree, shielding her with her own body. "Run, Emily," her mother cried again. "Go." Richard raised the gun, his voice thundering. "Step away from her." Emily's heart nearly stopped. And just as Richard's finger tightened on the trigger, a deafening gunshot shattered the night. But it wasn't Richard's gun that fired. The gunshot cracked through the night like thunder, echoing across the still lake. Emily dropped to the ground instinctively, covering her ears, her heart slamming against her ribs. Richard stumbled back, his gun clattering against the dirt. His flashlight beam flickered wildly across the trees. Emily's mother yanked her to her feet, pulling her deeper into the shadows. "Come on," she whispered urgently. But Emily was frozen in shock. "Who fired?" she gasped. From the darkness, another figure stepped forward. A man broad-shouldered, wearing a dark jacket, his face partly hidden beneath a cap. In his hand was a smoking pistol. Richard snarled, pointing a finger at him. "You." The man tilted his head slightly, his voice calm but cold. "Didn't think you'd find her this soon, Richard." Emily's stomach dropped. Who are you?" The man's eyes flicked to her for the briefest moment. "Someone who knows the truth." Richard roared in fury, lunging toward his fallen gun, but the man raised his weapon again, aiming directly at him. "Don't," the stranger warned. "You've lied enough. One more move and it ends here." Emily's head spun. Her husband furious, dangerous. Her mother shaking, clutching her hand like she was holding on to life itself. And now this stranger claiming to know the truth standing between them all. Richard's voice dripped with venom. "You think you can stop me? You have no idea who you're dealing with." The man smirked, his voice low. "On the contrary, I know exactly who you are, Richard. And so does she." He pointed at Emily. Her blood ran cold. "Me? What are you talking about?" Richard's laugh was harsh, cruel. "Oh, Emily, you really think your mother is the only one keeping secrets from you? You've been living a lie your entire life." Emily's knees weakened. "Stop it. Both of you. Just tell me the truth." Her mother shook her head violently, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Emily, don't listen to him. Please. There are things you don't know. But I'll explain everything. Just not here, not like this." The stranger's voice cut in sharply. "She's right. This isn't the place. But you need to understand, Emily, your life, your marriage, your family. None of it is what you think it is." Richard suddenly lunged again, grabbing his gun from the dirt. The stranger fired a second shot, sparks flying as the bullet struck the tree beside Richard's hand. Richard cursed and stumbled back, fury blazing in his eyes. Emily screamed, clutching her mother tighter. "Stop. Please stop." But no one listened. Her mother pulled her back, dragging her toward the darker part of the woods. "We have to go, Emily. Now." Richard raised his weapon again, aiming at them. "If you take one more step, I swear." Another gunshot rang out. This time, Emily felt the heat of it whip past her face. Her mother gasped sharply, her body jerking violently. Emily's eyes widened in horror. "Mom!" she cried, catching her as she collapsed to her knees. Her mother clutched her side, blood seeping through her fingers. "Run. Emily, run," she whispered, her face pale, her voice breaking. Emily screamed, tears blinding her vision as she tried to hold her mother upright. "No. I'm not leaving you, not again." Behind her, Richard and the stranger were circling each other, guns raised, shouting words she couldn't make out. The world blurred around her. The sounds of the night, the smell of gunpowder, her mother's warm blood staining her hands. Emily shook her mother frantically. "Stay with me, please. You can't leave me again." But her mother's eyes fluttered weakly, her breath growing shallow. And then Richard's voice thundered through the chaos, louder than the gunshots, louder than the cries. "Emily, choose. Right now. Him or me. If you don't decide, you'll lose everything." Emily froze, her heart tearing apart. Her mother in her arms, a stranger with answers in the shadows, and her husband, dark, dangerous, demanding. Her chest heaved as she cried out in anguish. "I don't know what to do." And just as her voice echoed into the night, another gun fired. Emily's world went black. When Emily opened her eyes, the world was spinning. Her ears rang, her vision blurred. For a moment she thought she was still in the woods, but the cold ground beneath her cheek wasn't dirt. It was stone. Her heart lurched. She sat up slowly, groaning, her head pounding. She was inside a dimly lit room, the air heavy and damp, the smell of mildew filling her nostrils. Her hands trembled as she touched her body. No blood. No wound. She hadn't been shot. Her first thought hit her like a knife. "Mom!" Emily's breath caught. She scrambled to her feet, her voice breaking. "Mom! Where are you?" Her words echoed off the stone walls. No answer. Her chest tightened. The last memory hit her, her mother collapsing in her arms, blood staining her clothes, Richard screaming for her to choose, the stranger aiming his gun. Then blackness. She staggered to the nearest wall, pounding it with her fists. "Let me out! Where is she?" A creak echoed behind her. Emily spun around. The heavy wooden door at the far end of the room opened slowly, its hinges groaning. A sliver of light spilled into the darkness. Richard stepped inside. Emily's stomach twisted violently. "You," she hissed, backing away. He closed the door behind him, locking it with a click. "Emily," he said softly, too softly. "You need to calm down." Her eyes burned with fury. "Where's my mother? What did you do to her?" Richard raised his hands as if he were innocent. "She's alive. For now. But she's not safe out there, Emily. Neither are you. That man, he's not who you think he is." Emily's hands shook with rage. "And you are? A liar? A criminal? You pulled a gun on us, Richard. You nearly killed her." His voice hardened. "I didn't pull the trigger. He did. The man you're so quick to trust. He shot your mother." Emily froze. "No. You're lying." Richard's eyes locked onto hers. "Am I? Think carefully. You were there. Whose gun was raised when the shot rang out?" Her mind raced, replaying the chaos in the woods. The stranger had been aiming, yes. He had fired first. Could he have fired again? Her head spun. "I don't know. I don't know anymore." Richard stepped closer, lowering his voice. "That's because he doesn't want you to know. He's been following us, waiting for the right moment to tear everything apart. Your mother trusted him. She told him things she never told you. And now? He's using her against me. And against you." Emily's knees wobbled. "What are you saying?" Richard's gaze darkened. "I'm saying, Emily, that the man who calls himself your savior might actually be your father." Emily staggered back as if the ground had disappeared beneath her. "What?" Richard nodded slowly, his eyes gleaming. "You heard me. The man who shot your mother isn't just some stranger. He's been watching you for years. And your mother, your sweet, innocent mother. She's been keeping him hidden all this time. Why do you think she disappeared? Why do you think she warned you not to trust the man in your own house? Because she knew once you found out the truth, you'd never look at me or her the same way again. Emily's breath came in sharp gasps. Her vision blurred again. You're lying, you have to be lying. But deep in her gut, a seed of doubt took root. Richard's voice dropped to a whisper, sharp and cutting. Ask yourself this. Why do you think that man risked his life to protect her? Why do you think she begged you to trust no one? Because she knew the day would come when all the lies unraveled. And now, Emily, that day is here. Emily shook her head violently, clutching her ears. Stop it. Stop filling my head with poison. But Richard only stepped closer, his voice like a knife. You want to know the truth? Then you'll have to choose. Your mother's lies, or mine. Emily's tears blurred her vision, her heart ripping in two. I can't. I don't know what to believe anymore. Richard leaned down, his face inches from hers, his eyes burning with intensity. Then let me make it simple, he whispered. If you want your mother to live, you'll do exactly as I say. The door creaked open behind him, and Emily's breath caught. A shadow appeared in the doorway. It was the stranger. Gun raised. The air in the room froze as the stranger stepped inside, his gun raised, his eyes locked on Richard. Step away from her, he growled. Emily's breath hitched. She looked from Richard to the stranger, her body shaking so badly she thought her knees would give out. Richard didn't flinch. He gave a dry, humorless laugh. So you finally decided to show your face properly. The stranger's jaw tightened. You should have stayed away from her, Richard. You should have left her out of this. Richard spread his arms mockingly. Oh, don't act like some noble hero. She's my wife. My responsibility. My life. You don't belong here. The stranger's voice sharpened, his finger tight on the trigger. She was never safe with you. And you know it. Emily's chest heaved as she looked between them. Please stop. Just tell me the truth. Who are you? What do you want from me? The stranger's eyes softened when they met hers. His lips parted as if to speak. Then Richard cut him off, his voice dripping with venom. Go on, Richard sneered. Tell her. Tell her how you've been stalking us, feeding her mother lies, pretending you're some kind of savior. Tell her the truth if you dare. The stranger's eyes darkened. Fine. She deserves to know. He lowered the gun slightly, taking a step toward Emily. My name is Daniel. He paused, his voice trembling ever so slightly. And Emily, I'm your father. Emily's heart stopped. The room tilted. For a moment, she couldn't breathe. She staggered back, her voice breaking. No, that's not possible. My father died when I was a baby. Daniel's eyes burned with sorrow. That's what your mother told you. But it wasn't true. I've been alive this whole time. She hid me from you, because of him. He pointed the gun at Richard. Emily's hands shook violently. Her chest felt like it was being crushed. Mom, she knew? Daniel nodded. Pain etched into his face. She knew everything. And she was only trying to protect you. Richard, he ruined our lives. He wanted her, but she chose me. So he destroyed me, and then he tried to erase me from your life too. Emily's eyes darted to Richard, desperate, pleading for clarity. Tell me he's lying. Please. Richard's jaw tightened, his face stone. He's insane. A washed-up criminal trying to twist your mind. You think your mother would have kept something like that from you? That she would have let you believe a lie your entire life? He's playing you, Emily. Don't fall for it. Emily's sobs broke the silence. Her world was shattering. Two men standing before her, each claiming to hold the truth, each demanding her trust. Daniel's voice cracked as he spoke again. Emily, listen to me. That warning your mother gave you, it wasn't about me. It was about him. He's dangerous. You saw it yourself. He pulled a gun on us. He tore your world apart. Richard's face twisted with rage. You want her to believe you? After all these years, you abandoned her. You left her mother broken. And now you crawl back calling yourself her father? Pathetic. Daniel's gun hand trembled, but his eyes stayed fixed on Richard. I didn't abandon anyone. You destroyed everything, Richard. You took her from me. And now you're not taking Emily. The two men stared each other down, guns raised again. like wolves circling for the kill. Emily's body shook uncontrollably. Stop it. Both of you. I can't take this anymore. But neither listened. In one split second, Richard lunged toward the table beside him, grabbing a knife. Daniel's gun fired. The bullet whizzed past Richard's shoulder, slamming into the wall. Richard roared, charging forward, knife in hand. Daniel fired again. The blast lit up the room. Emily screamed as Richard fell to the floor, clutching his arm, blood soaking through his sleeve. Daniel aimed again, his face hard, determined to end it. Emily threw herself between them, her arms outstretched, her voice shaking. No. Stop. If you're really my father, then prove it. Don't make me watch you kill him. Daniel froze, his finger trembling on the trigger. His eyes locked onto hers, torn between rage and something softer. Richard groaned on the floor, his eyes blazing with hatred. Emily, don't trust him. Don't you dare. And then, before anyone could move, the door behind them burst open. Emily's mother stumbled in, bloodied and weak, her face pale as a ghost. Emily, she gasped, collapsing to the floor. Don't listen to either of them. The truth is worse than you think. And with that, she went completely still. For a moment, the world froze. Emily dropped to her knees beside her mother, cradling her fragile body. Mom, stay with me, please. Don't you leave me now. Her mother's lips trembled, her breath shallow. Blood stained her blouse, her skin pale as moonlight. Emily, listen before it's too late. Tears streamed down Emily's face. Don't talk, save your strength. But her mother shook her head weakly. No. You have to know the truth. You've been caught between two lies, and you don't know which way to turn. But I'll tell you everything now, even if it breaks me. Emily's heart thudded painfully. She gripped her mother's hand tight. Tell me. Please, Mom. Tell me everything. Her mother's eyes fluttered toward Richard, then Daniel, both standing rigid, weapons still raised. Years ago, she whispered. Before you were born. I loved Daniel. He was kind, brave, everything I wanted. But Richard wanted me for himself. He framed Daniel, ruined his life, made the world believe he was a criminal. I was forced to marry Richard to protect you. Emily gasped, her chest tightening. So, Daniel is my father? Her mother nodded weakly. Yes, he is. And I kept him hidden to keep you safe. Richard would have destroyed you both if he knew. Daniel's gun shook in his hand, his face filled with grief and relief. Richard's jaw clenched, rage burning in his eyes. Emily's sobs tore through the silence. Her world was tilting, spinning, crashing all at once. Everything she thought she knew, her marriage, her family, her very identity, was a lie. Richard's voice cut through her cries, sharp and bitter. She's lying, Emily. She's always been a liar. Don't you see? She's poisoned your mind against me for years. If you believe her, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Daniel stepped forward, his voice low but firm. And if you trust him, Emily, you'll never be free. He's controlled you long enough. Now you know the truth. Don't let him keep you in chains. Emily clutched her mother tighter. Her heart raced, her lungs burned. Her tears blurred everything into shadows. Her mother's hand gripped hers one last time. Emily, listen to me. Life will give you choices, some harder than death itself. But you must always choose truth, even if it hurts. Lies may protect you for a moment, but they will destroy you in the end. Her body trembled, her eyes closing slowly. Promise me. Promise you'll choose truth. Emily cried out, shaking her. Mom, don't leave me. Please. But her hand slipped from Emily's grasp, falling limp against the floor. Emily's scream filled the room, raw and heart-shattering. Daniel lowered his gun, tears streaking his face. Richard's knife clattered from his hand as he stumbled back, pale and shaken. For once even he was silent. Emily wiped her eyes with trembling hands. Her voice cracked as she stood between them, her mother's body still at her feet. No more lies, she said, her voice hoarse but steady. I've been broken, deceived, and torn apart. But it ends now. I don't care who wins your war. I choose truth. I choose freedom. And I choose myself. Richard's face twisted. Emily, don't. Her voice sliced through the air like a blade. I'll never live under your shadow again. You don't own me. Not my life, not my choices, not my future. Daniel's eyes softened, his voice thick with emotion. Emily, I'll never force you. If you want me gone, I'll go. But know this, I've always loved you even from afar. Emily's tears fell harder, her heart torn but resolute. She looked at her mother's still body, then at the two men who had shaped her destiny in such opposite ways. Her voice shook as she whispered, I'm done being your pawn. From today forward, I live my own truth. She turned, walking toward the door with trembling legs, leaving Richard and Daniel staring at each other, the weight of her words crashing down heavier than any bullet. And as she stepped into the night air, she looked up at the stars, her mother's final words echoing in her heart. Always choose truth, even if it hurts, because only then can you truly be free. The days after my mother's death were a blur. I barely remember the hours that followed, faces moving in and out of focus, voices whispering around me, and the dull ache of loss that refused to fade. One moment, I was holding her hand, begging her to stay. The next, I was standing in the quiet of my house, her voice only an echo in my mind. The house felt different now. Hollow. The walls that once echoed with laughter seemed to close in on me, suffocating me with silence. I would sit in the kitchen, staring at the empty chair where she used to sip her tea whenever she visited, and the tears would come without warning. Richard was gone. After that night, I never saw him again. I didn't know if he had fled, if he was hiding, or if the stranger, Daniel, had driven him away. All I knew was that the man I once called my husband was no longer part of my life. And Daniel, my supposed father. His words haunted me. I've always loved you, even from afar. I wanted to believe him, but doubt gnawed at me. Could a man who claimed to be my father really have stayed away all these years if he loved me? Or was there still more to the story that my mother hadn't had time to tell? I tried to push it aside, to bury myself in ordinary things. Cleaning the house, sorting through old clothes, walking to the lake just to feel the wind on my face. But no matter what I did, I couldn't escape the sense that eyes were on me. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, I returned home to find an envelope slipped under my front door. My heart pounded as I bent to pick it up. My name was scrawled across the front in messy handwriting. I tore it open with trembling hands. Inside was a single note. Emily, you are not safe. The war is not over. Trust no one. I dropped the paper as if it had burned me. My chest tightened, my breaths came in shallow gasps. Who had written it? Richard? Daniel? Or someone else entirely? I slammed the door shut and locked it, every nerve in my body on edge. My mother's warning echoed in my mind. Trust no one, not even the man in your own house. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every creak in the floorboards, every rustle of wind against the window made me jump. My eyes darted to the shadows in the corners, half expecting Richard to emerge with his twisted smile, or Daniel with his haunted eyes. By morning, I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I packed a bag with a few clothes, some money, and my mother's letters. I had to leave. But leave for where? As I zipped the bag, I caught sight of myself in the mirror. My face looked older, hardened. I was no longer the same Emily who once believed in fairy tale love and perfect families. That girl was gone. Now I was someone else. Someone who had lost everything, and yet had to keep moving forward. I grabbed my bag and headed for the front door. But just as I reached for the knob, a knock came from the other side. My heart stopped. Slowly I stepped back. The knock came again, firmer this time. Emily, a voice called softly, a voice I knew too well. Daniel. I pressed my back against the wall, my chest heaving. Part of me wanted to open the door, to demand the answers he still hadn't given me. Another part of me wanted to run as far away from him as possible. Emily, please, he said again. His tone was gentle, almost pleading. I know you're scared, but I need you to listen. There's something you don't know. Something your mother didn't get the chance to tell you. It's about Richard, and about you. My hands trembled as I gripped the doorknob. My mother's last words rang in my ears. Always choose truth, even if it hurts. But what if the truth destroyed me? I squeezed my eyes shut, trying to summon courage. And then, before I could decide whether to open the door, the glass of the window shattered. I screamed, dropping to the floor as shards rained across the room. A dark figure leapt through the broken frame, landing heavily on the carpet. When I looked up, my blood ran cold. It wasn't Richard. It wasn't Daniel. It was someone else entirely. And in his hand was another letter. The stranger towered in the dim light of my living room, his boots crunching over shards of broken glass. His eyes were sharp, cold, like a hunter who had finally cornered his prey. I scrambled backward, my heart hammering so loud it drowned out the sound of his slow, deliberate steps. "Stay away from me," I shouted, grabbing the nearest thing I could find, a lamp, and holding it in front of me like a weapon. But he didn't flinch. He simply extended his hand, the folded letter pinched between his fingers. "This isn't for me," he said, his voice low and steady. "It's for you." The letter trembled slightly in his grip, and something about that unsettled me more than his calmness. It wasn't the tremble of fear, it was the tremble of urgency. I stayed crouched, my breaths ragged. "Who are you?" He dropped the letter on the floor between us and straightened. "The last person you ever thought would come back." My blood ran cold. Slowly I reached for the paper. My fingers shook as I unfolded it. The words were written in the same messy scrawl as the warning note I had received the night before. But this time the message was longer. "Emily, the truth has layers. Richard was only the first. Daniel is not who you think. And the blood in your veins is not as simple as they claim. You are in danger because of what you carry, not who raised you." I stared at the words until they blurred. My chest tightened, my knees felt weak. "What does this mean?" I whispered. The stranger's eyes softened, but only slightly. "It means you've been lied to again. By all of them." Behind me there was another knock at the door, louder, harder this time. "Emily." Daniel's voice thundered through the wood. "Open the door now." My head whipped between the broken window where the stranger stood and the door where Daniel pounded. The stranger's jaw tightened. "If you open that door, you'll seal your fate. He isn't here to protect you. He's here to claim what's his." My mouth went dry. "What's his?" "You," the stranger said simply. The pounding grew fiercer. "Emily, don't listen to him. He's dangerous. Let me in before it's too late." My body shook with indecision. The walls seemed to close in on me, the air thick with fear and confusion. Who was lying? Who was telling the truth? The stranger stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Your mother tried to shield you from this. She gave her life to keep you away from men like him. But Daniel isn't your father. He's your jailer. And if you let him in, you'll never walk free again." The words crashed into me like waves. My breath hitched. "But my mother," she said. "She told you only what she had time to," the stranger cut in. "And even then, she couldn't bear to tell you the worst of it." The door shook violently as Daniel's fist slammed against it again and again. "Emily." His voice broke, desperate. "He's lying to you. Open this door before he hurts you." Tears burned my eyes. I was trapped in a nightmare, pulled between two voices, two stories, two possible fates. The stranger bent down, his face inches from mine now. His dark eyes locked onto mine with a piercing intensity. "You want the truth? Run with me now and I'll show you. But if you stay here one more second, you'll never know who you truly are." The sound of splintering wood ripped through the air. Daniel was breaking down the door. I screamed, clutching the letter to my chest. My legs moved before my mind did. I bolted for the back door, the stranger close behind. We burst into the night, the cool air slapping my face, my lungs burning as I ran. Behind me, I heard the door finally give way and Daniel's furious voice echo through the house. "Emily." I didn't look back. The stranger led me down the narrow alley, his grip firm on my arm as if he feared I would collapse at any second. We didn't stop until we reached a dark sedan parked under the shadows of an old oak tree. "Get in," he ordered. I hesitated, my whole body trembling. "I don't even know who you are." "You will," he said, his tone softer this time. "But right now we don't have time. If you want answers, if you want the truth your mother couldn't tell you, this is the only way." I stared at the car, then at him, then back toward the street where Daniel's voice still echoed faintly in the night. Every part of me screamed not to trust him. And yet, hadn't every person I trusted betrayed me already? Slowly, with shaking hands, I climbed into the car. The stranger slid into the driver's seat and started the engine. Hold on, Emily. Your life is about to change again. The car roared to life, the tires kicking up gravel as we sped away into the darkness. For a long time, neither of us spoke. The hum of the engine and the pounding of my heart were the only sounds. Finally, I found my voice. You still haven't told me who you are. His grip tightened on the wheel. My name is Jonathan. And if what I know is true, then Emily. I'm not just here to protect you. I'm here because you're the last key to finishing what your mother started. I froze. My fingers clutched the letter tighter. What do you mean the last key? Jonathan's eyes flicked toward me briefly before returning to the road. His jaw clenched. I mean that the blood running through your veins isn't just the blood of a daughter caught between two men. Something far more dangerous. And people will kill to claim it. My throat closed up. What are you saying? Jonathan exhaled slowly, as though bracing himself. I'm saying, Emily, you're not just Richard's or Daniel's child. You're something neither of them wanted you to find out. And the moment you do, the entire war will shift to you. The car sped faster, swallowing the miles of dark road ahead. My chest heaved. My mind reeled. The war wasn't over. It had only just begun. And I was at the center of it. The car sped down the lonely highway, the headlights cutting through the dark like sharp blades. I pressed myself into the seat, my hands clutching the letter as if it were the only thing keeping me alive. Jonathan's words echoed in my mind. You're the last key. People will kill to claim it. I turned toward him, my voice shaking. You can't just say something like that and then stay quiet. What do you mean, Jonathan? What's in my blood? His jaw tightened as he kept his eyes on the road. It's not easy to explain. And once I tell you, there's no going back. You'll never see yourself the same way again. My breath quickened. After everything I've lost, after all the lies, I deserve the truth. I don't care how painful it is. Just tell me. Jonathan gripped the steering wheel tighter, the muscles in his arms taut. For a long moment he said nothing. Finally his voice came low and steady. Your mother wasn't just protecting you from Richard. She was protecting you from the people behind him. Powerful men who wanted something only she carried, and something she passed on to you. I blinked, my throat dry. What are you talking about? Jonathan glanced at me briefly. His eyes were hard, filled with a kind of sorrow that made my stomach twist. Your bloodline isn't ordinary, Emily. Your mother was born into a family that carried a rare genetic marker. Something scientists have been trying to recreate for decades. It makes the body resistant to diseases that destroy others. It makes healing faster, stronger, almost unnatural. I stared at him in disbelief. That's impossible. That sounds like something out of a movie. He shook his head. I've seen it. I've seen your mother survive things no one else could. And you, Emily, you're stronger than you realize. That's why Richard wanted you close. That's why Daniel stayed in the shadows. And that's why others, men you've never even heard of, are hunting you right now. My whole body trembled. I wanted to reject his words, to call him a liar, but deep down a memory stirred. Times I'd fallen ill but recovered with impossible speed. Times doctors had looked at me strangely during checkups, murmuring about resilience and unusual results. Oh my God! I whispered, my hand flying to my chest. So my entire life they weren't protecting me. They were keeping me like some kind of prize. Jonathan's silence was answer enough. I turned toward the window, tears blurring the endless stretch of night. I felt sick, betrayed all over again. My mother's last words echoed in my mind. Always choose truth, even if it hurts. But this truth didn't just hurt. It shattered me. After a long silence, I asked the question that had been burning inside me. What do they want from me now? Jonathan exhaled sharply. Control. If they can control you, they control what's inside you. And if they can replicate it, they'll hold the power to decide who lives and who dies. That's why Richard fought so hard to own you. That's why Daniel clung to the lie of being your father. And that's why I had to come back. I turned toward him, my voice small. Come back from where? His grip on the wheel tightened again. His voice was heavy with regret. From the same past your mother tried to bury. Emily, I was part of the same circle once. I knew her before any of them. and I swore I'd protect what she carried, no matter the cost. My stomach dropped. So you're not just some stranger? Jonathan's eyes flicked toward me, filled with a haunting sadness. No. I'm the brother she lost. I'm your uncle. The air was sucked out of my lungs. I stared at him, my entire body going cold. Before I could speak, the night exploded. Headlights blinded us from behind, and a black SUV slammed into the rear of the car. The impact threw me forward, my seatbelt locking painfully across my chest. Jonathan cursed, jerking the wheel to keep us from spinning out. The SUV rammed us again, harder this time, its engine roaring like a beast. They found us. Jonathan shouted. I screamed as glass shattered around us, another hit sending the car swerving dangerously close to the ditch at the side of the road. My heart pounded, every nerve screaming in terror. Jonathan gritted his teeth, pushing the car faster. But the SUV was relentless, closing in, its lights glaring like hungry eyes. Emily, Jonathan's voice roared above the chaos. No matter what happens, remember this. You are the last key. Don't let them take you alive. Another violent crash. Metal screeched. My vision blurred. And then, the car flipped. The world spun upside down, glass raining, metal twisting. My body thrown against the seatbelt as the sound of crushing impact filled my ears. My scream was swallowed by the darkness as everything went black. When I opened my eyes, the world was a blur of white light and muffled sounds. My head throbbed, my lips were dry, and every bone in my body ached as though I'd been torn apart and stitched back together. For a moment I thought I was in a hospital. The air smelled sterile, and the hum of machines buzzed faintly in the background. But as my vision cleared, I realized the truth. This wasn't a hospital. The walls were bare concrete. The machines were old generators tucked in the corner, their lights flickering weakly. And the bed I lay on wasn't a hospital bed at all. It was a metal frame bolted to the ground. My stomach dropped. I tried to sit up, but leather straps bound my wrists and ankles. Panic surged through me, my breath coming fast and shallow. Hello, Emily. The voice made my blood run cold. I turned my head slowly. Richard. He stood in the doorway, his suit immaculate despite the chaos of the crash, his smile sharp and chilling. His eyes burned with the same possessive hunger I'd seen the night my mother died. You survived, he said softly, almost admiringly. Just like I knew you would. It's in your blood. My throat tightened. Where's Jonathan? What did you do to him? Richard's smile widened, but his silence cut deeper than any words. I shook my head violently, tears stinging my eyes. You monster. You'll never control me. My mother. Your mother lied to you, Richard interrupted, his voice rising. She always lied. She kept you from me, poisoned your mind, and made you believe I was the villain. But tell me, Emily, if I were the monster she claimed, would you still be alive right now? I glared at him, my voice trembling with rage. I'm alive in spite of you, not because of you. For a moment his smile faltered. Then he leaned closer, his eyes narrowing. You think Jonathan can save you? That man has blood on his hands thicker than mine. Ask him about the experiments, Emily. Ask him how many lives were lost so he could learn the truth about your family's gift. My breath caught. No, you're lying. Richard chuckled, a low, menacing sound. Am I? Or is it that the truth scares you more than the lie? Before I could answer, heavy footsteps echoed in the hall. Another figure appeared in the doorway, one I didn't expect. Daniel. His face was pale, his shirt stained with dirt and sweat, but his eyes burned with a desperate fire. Let her go, Richard, he growled. Richard laughed, straightening. Ah, Daniel. Right on time. You never could resist playing the hero. Daniel's eyes darted to me, then back to Richard. If you hurt her, I swear. You'll what? Richard sneered. Shoot me? You've had years to try, and yet here I am. Still standing. Still winning. Daniel's jaw clenched, his hand twitching near the holster at his side. But before he could move, Richard lifted a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. The straps around my wrists and ankles tightened automatically, digging painfully into my skin. I gasped, biting back a scream. Stop it! Daniel shouted, stepping forward. Richard raised the remote higher, his eyes glinting. One more step, and she loses circulation in those precious veins of hers. And we both know what's flowing through them is worth more than either of our lives. Daniel froze, his chest heaving. My heart pounded wildly, my mind racing in circles. Trapped between two men, one holding me captive, the other unable to save me. Richard leaned down close, his lips inches from my ear. His whisper was ice. It's time you face the truth, Emily. You are not a victim. You are the prize. And every war, every betrayal, has always been about you. A single tear slid down my cheek as my body shook against the restraints. And then, just as I thought it couldn't get worse, the lights flickered, the generators groaned, and in the sudden darkness, a third voice echoed from the shadows. Enough games. She belongs to me. When the lights went out, the darkness didn't feel empty. It felt full of breath, held, waiting, heavy. My heart hammered so loud I thought the men could hear it in the walls. The voice that said, "She belongs to me," seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. Then a single lamp clicked on near the far corner, and a silhouette stepped forward. He was taller than the others, broad-shouldered, and he moved with a slow, terrible calm. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw a face I didn't recognize but somehow understood. The face of someone who had always been watching from the edges. "Good," he said, as if greeting an old friend. "Bring her." I stared at him, my wrists burning from the straps. Richard and Daniel both flinched at the sound of his voice. Even Richard, the man who had thought himself the spider pulling every thread, looked small. "Who are you?" Daniel demanded. His voice was rough with anger and fear. The man smiled without humor. "Names don't matter for people like you. You know what we want." He turned his sharp gaze to me. "And you are the last piece." Something cold crawled up my spine. All the scraps of truth I'd been given, the hidden journals, the late-night whispers, the notes with their cryptic warnings, they stacked into a picture I hadn't been ready to look at. I wasn't just the child caught between two men. I was the reason there had been a war at all. Richard's voice broke as he tried bargaining, trying the one thing he'd used for years, control. "We can make a deal. Money, power, whatever you want." The stranger laughed, low and contemptuous. "Your deals are for small men. We don't buy. We take." Daniel stepped forward like a shield. "You're not taking her." "Not while I breathe." The tall man's eyes flicked to Daniel with interest. "Ah, protector. How noble. How inconvenient." He bent down until his face was close to mine. For the first time I felt something like pity in the dread. "You were born into this, child. You carry what my employers want. They will not stop until they control it." "Control what?" I rasped. He straightened and signaled. Two men in the shadows stepped forward carrying a metal case. They set it on the concrete and clicked it open. Inside, taped and labeled, were vials and papers and photographs, blood work, genetic sequencing, notes about accelerated healing, markers that sounded like science fiction and yet were all too real. "You see," the man said softly, "it's not myth. It's biology. Your mother's family had something rare. She hid it, she protected you. And that protection made her a target. We've spent years watching, waiting for a line that could be traced. A child who inherited enough to make our research complete. You are that child." I thought of every time my body had healed too fast. Every time a doctor's puzzled face had felt like a secret door closing. I felt the horror and the rage rise together. For my whole life I had been a prize. "No, Iwisparat. I'm not an object. I'm a person." The tall man shrugged. "You will be what is necessary. You can scream at the wind, but it won't change the fact that your blood is valuable. We will teach you to be less inconvenient." Daniel exploded then, raw and dangerous. He lunged. Richard tried to stop him, but the taller man snapped his fingers. Two assistants hit Daniel with something that rang in the air. The sound of a strike that was not loud but was enough. Daniel crumpled, coughing. "Enough," the man said, and authority poured from him like smoke. "We have what we need. Prepare her for transport." Hands grabbed me. I kicked, screamed, pulled at the straps until my arms burned. But there was strength in numbers and cold metal in planning. They moved me like a package, cold and efficient, towards an exit I didn't want to cross. As they dragged me across the concrete, a sliver of something happened. Small and ridiculous and miraculous. The strap on my wrist, old and frayed, snagged on a bolt. Someone had hammered at the floor poorly years before. The bolt was loose. When one of the men tried to jerk me onward, the strap tore. I didn't think. I shoved with everything left in me and slid free. Chaos ignited like oil. Yelled orders, running feet, a crash. Someone cursed, maybe Richard, maybe one of the assistants. I ran. No plan, only the animal sense of flight. The cool night slapped my face as I stumbled out a side door into the street. For a few blue heartbeats I ran without thought. Then I stopped, bent over the cold curb, gasping. Behind me, shouts. A car had been left running, maybe theirs, and its lights poured into the dark. I saw movement in the street. A masked figure hovering by the car. Another van idling. My legs felt like lead. My chest hurt. Then improbably Daniel came crashing out too, blood on his sleeve, eyes burning with something like despair and relief. He grabbed my arm. "Emily," he said, voice ragged. "Run. Get as far as you can. Call Jonathan, call anyone." "What about you?" I demanded. He smiled with a courage that made my throat close. "I'm not finished yet." I ran then because there was no other choice. I ran until my shoes left prints on wet asphalt and until a stranger, a kind woman with a phone, pulled over and let me in, said her name was Lorraine and that she knew someone who could get me to safety. They hid me that night in a house with boarded windows, lights out. I slept fitfully, each dream a jumble of straps and vials and my mother's last breath. Always choose truth, even if it hurts. When morning came, I called Jonathan. He answered on the second ring, his voice steady like a rope thrown to shore. "Where are you?" he asked. "Safe," I lied. Not safe, I thought, but alive. That counted. Jonathan promised me things I wanted. Paperwork, a plan, people who could help expose the group that hunted me. He told me he'd bring proof, scientists who would confirm the truth about my blood and why it mattered. He said the world would have to know what my mother had tried to keep secret. As I hung up, I felt the old hollow where trust used to live. It would take time to fill. It would take courage I wasn't sure I had. But I also felt something else. A small ember of resolve, my mother's voice like wind, choose truth. I would choose it. Not because the world demanded my bloodline, but because I owed it to my mother, to Daniel, to anyone who had ever loved me enough to risk themselves for me. I would not be a prize. I would be the one to tell the story. If there is a lesson here, it is ugly and honest. People will make monsters of love when they are afraid. They will hide truths and sell safety. But truth, when held, can be a kind of freedom. It can hurt. It can wreck lives. But it also clears the air so something real can grow. I don't know what comes next. There are men out there who still want me. There are families shattered and laws waiting to be bent. But I have my feet on the ground, and I have the names of people who will stand with me. That will have to be enough. My name is Margaret. You may remember me as Grandma Maggie. I am 78 years old and I'm speaking to you from Ohio. If you followed this whole story with me, thank you. Please subscribe, like, and click the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter of my life and the next stories I will share. Tell me in the comments. From which part of the country are you watching from today? I read everyone.